Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the South Star Classroom. I'm your host, one of your co-hosts, David Castillo. We've got the full team here today. And what are we on? Episode
225.
225. Unbelievable. Wow. All right. Well, before we get into our topic, let's do some check-ins. It feels like it's been a while. I think
Been a while.
I was not here last week. I was away, but I hope you all had a good show, and I'd love to hear what you all have been up to.
There was no show. It was off. Nothing happened last week. It was gone.
There you go. That's why it feels like it's been 2 weeks. Yeah.
There was a plan,
Okay.
and then it was like, oh no, we're not gonna do that. And then I didn't have enough time at that point to upload an old one. So we just that was the first time we had dead air though since in 225 episodes. But it's all good.
Hopefully.
All right. Well, with that said, why don't we go ahead and start the check-ins off with Charles? He typically takes the longest to do his check-in. So we'll go ahead and start there.
Charles is fine.
I just
Check
wrote
in
that.
done. Who's next?
Just to prove a point. You see? Just to prove a point. Because he doesn't.
I think check-ins are useless and meaningless. And an hour
doesn't
show with 4 people is just a waste of time.
He's just.
Man.
We should poll the audience is what we should do.
I mean, you can
Because-
poll them. It's still bad podcasting, but it's okay. I that's my check-in. I checked in.
Take that.
Just to prove a point that he doesn't like check-ins, he's going to do that. But usually, he's doing story time. He's doing all sorts of stuff. Okay, during check-ins. But now he wants
Jubilee,
to do
have I told you since the first day you got here that check-ins are done?
but you still do it.
Yeah, because we appease you. We respect you. You're the matriarch. You get what you want. But that's the only reason any of us do this is because you like it. But
All right.
check in.
So do y'all want to take a vote on whether or not we keep check in for the next 100 episodes?
Man, you don't want to be taking no votes on that. You don't want to be taking no votes on that, man.
So
Listen,
Charles has company.
I am doing all the social emotional learning in our school. We got 3 gents.
telling you.
We're like,
Yeah.
hey, Dave, you good, man? All right.
Okay, we're gonna
Hey,
do.
Doc,
We're gonna do. We're
what's
gonna
up with
do. a
that-
group-
what's up with
we're gonna
that
do a group
beautiful
check-in.
goatee in the
We're gonna do a group
Bahamas?
check-in.
Man, it was dope as hell.
We are
All
gonna.
right,
We're gonna
check-in's
all.
done.
We're gonna take a second to self-reflect. For 15 seconds, and then we're gonna come back one at a time. I'm gonna poll you, and think about how you're feeling in this moment, and then assign a color to it. So you're only allowed
Oh, look
to
at this
respond
Montessori ass shit
to
right
the
here.
check-in
You like that
with
color?
a color. Okay, are we ready, Charles? What color are you feeling like today?
Red.
Black every day, baby. I'm with it.
I was gonna say you
Black,
can't say black, but that's
and
okay.
I'm
You got
black,
it.
y'all. And I'm
Okay.
black, y'all. That's one of my
Okay,
favorite songs.
Jubilee, checking in, full check-in.
I feel like the colors of the rainbow today.
Oh, look at the Lucky Charms.
They're magically delicious.
See,
Well, I'm fine. That was a great check-in for me. We can move forward, just like Charles wanted to do 5 minutes ago.
Okay, all right. Omar, what color are you feeling like today?
man, I am always purple and black, baby. Purple and black, 2 of my favorite colors.
It was supposed to be one color.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jubilee picked the
I don't
full rainbow.
I don't abide by the rules.
Now, why you gotta
But
call me
But I'm crazy excited about the topic today, man, because it's something
Yeah.
I'm like, what the F is going on right now?
Yeah.
With our attention. So excited, man. Purple with a ting of that good ass crimson.
Great. All right. Well, I am feeling brown and down. So down as in like, yo, homie, you down?
Oh,
Yeah.
down to clown, like Cypress Hill.
down?
You down with the clica? Yeah, that kind of down. Yeah.
Simone.
Okay, got you.
So last week we apparently didn't have a show, and we always try and do like just get out to do something for summer. Nothing like, I mean, sometimes it's a bit more luxurious. This year we just had to get out just to like put a flag in the put a pole in the ground to say like, okay, here's their summer vacation. And what we did this year, I know none of you are asking for this information, but I'm going to offer it. We went up to you drive up from here up through like Riverside, San Bernardino, and then you keep going into the high desert, and then you can actually access what is the southern tip of the Sierra Mountain Range, which eventually goes on to become Yosemite, Lake Tahoe, Mount Whitney, all that stuff. And so we drove up to the desert, drove up from the east side of the Sierras to the west side, and spent a couple of days on the Kern River, which is a river that starts up at the western peak of Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in the contiguous 48 states. And like flowing mountain water, flowing natural mountain water for 3 days. We had a little place right on the river, and it was amazing just to go and connect with nature. I've never seen a beaver in the wild. Saw beavers, saw a bunch of other animals too, but yeah, it was a great trip, and now we're back. So there you go.
Now we're back, brown and down. I love it.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, let's jump in. All right. Today we're going to talk about an uplifting topic: school closures. Right. Maybe less about school closures, but more about like why the reasons that schools need to be closed. Because we'll get into it. So the headline for today's show is coming from a Washington Post article that talked about, I think more than 1,000 public schools closed during last school year, right? It's a 4-year trend. So this is not anything that's like going away. It's actually like every year, the number of schools is actually growing. So we're talking about like a structural issue. Obviously, school districts are still running the same number of facilities at the same capacity, but they have fewer kids, and that impacts their funding. And ultimately, you start to run into what they call like a deficit, right? Where you either have a structural deficit, or worst case scenario is you run out of cash and you're not able to actually pay people, which is terrible. It depends on where you're at in the country as to like what's going on. Some of it's economic. We know we have lower birth rates. Populations are shifting. Some of it has to do with like what we've talked about on the show, and like private school choice, charter schools in some areas, not in California. Homeschooling is a really small piece of the pie. And then immigration also. I think one thing that we saw a lot here in California is a lot of families deciding to like self deport back to where they came from, mainly Latin America, as a result of the pressure put on by ICE and other federal agencies. Some projections suggest public schools could serve nearly 4 million fewer students by 2031 than they did in 2019. So 2031 is like right around the corner, right? And we know at the same time funding for education has gone up over the last 20 years as well. So more money going into a system that is actually providing education for fewer kids. Let's see, what else do we have here? Another component of this is a lot of the COVID relief funding that was going around, I think a lot of school districts got used to having access to some of these one-time or two-time or three-time funds. A lot of different funding streams came out of COVID relief. And a lot of that, most of it, all of it is pretty much gone. It's gone now, right? Yeah. It's dried up. And so we're looking at essentially a cliff scenario. So I don't even think we've gotten to the worst part yet. But I'll pause there to get your initial thoughts before we go in a little bit deeper.
I'm worried. And when I say I'm worried about a lot of stuff. And I mean deeply worried, meaning at least in Texas, and Texas is a huge state. And oftentimes I see things that happen here that then get kind of pushed out to other states, particularly in the South. Man, we talked a ton about literacy. And Dr. Cole, I talked about literacy with my whole staff this year. And it's going to be a wildly big concern. Found out most of my staff hadn't read a book last year. Like 75% of Americans had. And I was like, how are we not, like, that's the most egregious thing I've ever heard. How, like, that's hypocritical. How are we telling our kids to be literate and expand their literacy, and we are not doing it ourselves? So you've got that issue. Then you've got this whole voucher issue, which is like exploding in the state of Texas, which, by the way, the overwhelming majority of the vouchers are going towards people with economic means, because you have to apply and it's a difficult process. You have a enormous number of people, David, just not showing up to school. They're not in homeschool. They're not in private school. They're not in charter school. They just ain't showing up. Like, just stone cold, I'm out of here. This is worthless. And no one's enforcing it because the judicial systems are so backed up. So I'm all for consolidation. I'm all for, hey, look, like, there's not as many kids in schools. We don't need all these schools. We should be consolidating. But this is getting to a point where, like, dude, these are thousands upon thousands of schools that just all of a sudden, like, we're done. And I think it's this domino effect of what we're seeing is, if we don't get a stranglehold on this and start working towards some solution, we're going to start seeing the privatization. And, you know, once again, dude, I'll kind of sit on my soapbox and be like, yeah. I get that these teacher unions are all about the teachers, but maybe they should be about kids and education. And I think that they need to be reformulated to be fighting for the right thing, because, like, cool, keep fighting for the teachers. They ain't going to be here anymore. Or not. I don't know. I'm deeply worried. Kind of wondering to see how it's going in Charles's neck of the wood and Jubilee's neck of the woods.
Mm-hmm. Right of refusal, Ju? Okay. Yeah, I can tell you. My initial reactions, and then to tie into what you said, I think there's a bunch of different factors. Growing up in Oakland, like, Black people used to be the majority. Schools used to have, whatever. And then there's just been an exodus of Black people over time, like before COVID, before ICE, like it
to where
all out, right? So Oakland was just really expensive. So the first wave of that was like the first ring of like suburbs. So Antioch and Newark and like Vallejo, and then they went out further, Stockton, and then Sacramento and those places, and then even further to like Fresno. Like, we moved my senior year of high school, right? Like, so the Bay just got to be too expensive, and that's happening in all these major cities. Chicago is bleeding Black students. A lot of them are coming out to the suburbs where I'm at. It's just shifting, and I think the other thing is when you redistrict and gerrymander. So not only you don't no longer have these conclaves like Black people or this group or whatever, where they do have a little bit of voting power. Now you've kind of redrawn those maps, and other maps get redrawn. So, and I think that systemically is one of the issues. And I think some of this is on the schools themselves, some of the education, in the sense of there's competition that came, right? Like, long gone are the days where there's 1 or 2 major high schools for the full city, and like maybe 5 to 8 junior high schools, and then 20 elementary schools, right? And it funnels up. They adopted different movements. They adopted small school movements. We said we needed these things. I don't know how well that worked in some cases. In some cases it didn't. But then on top of that, traditional public schools also never made the transition of, oh, our families actually have choices now. Maybe our schools can look and feel like a prison, and maybe they gotta want to be here. And now what you have is you have an influx. Black people have been leading this charge around homeschools is just blowing up. Micro schools are blowing up. Choice, and whether it's charter or just other traditional schools. And like you said, in some places, vouchers, where like maybe I went to a really good traditional school that was competing with the private school, but now I got options. Like you said, my family got a little bit of means. We ain't balling, but with this voucher, and I can add a little bit of money in there, I can get my kid into this private. It's a perfect storm that's leading to this moment. Oh, and by the way, the product is stepped on. We just did our report and our work with these 3.8, 4.0 GPA students, where 7 out of 10 of them thought that they were proficient. And then we looked at the data and 3 out of 10 of them were proficient. I don't know if all the teachers teaching in some of those classes are even proficient. So again, it's just a perfect storm of systemic factors, individual decisions and choices, and stubbornness by a system that's kind of gotten left behind. And now people have options. I haven't gotten into ICE. I haven't gotten into the international of it all. I haven't gotten into just the Latino population growing. And then in that growing, the shared identity of Latino doesn't have to be as strong per se, because now it's a lot of Mexicans. Now it's a lot of Dominicans. Now it's a lot of Venezuelan. And I don't know if they don't want to just be grouped like that. And they want to go to different schools and have their own thing. So I don't even feel qualified to go into that conversation the way I think of David and Omar could. So those are my general reactions to what you said, just to kind of lay out some facts around what's actually been happening. We got to get our cadence back, our groove back. We off of it. Jube, I don't know if you was jumping in, but I can stretch. But I mean, it was up to you. It was on you. But I mean, but just to address what you were saying, though, Omar, right? Like that's what's happening here is major news here. It's been major news here. You can look up Chicago stuff, and then we have other politics with a very strong mayor who has very, very clear ties to the union, who was a union leader. And then the contract. So he shoved the contract down the throats of these people, got rid of his old board, got a new school board, and now we're begging for money. And so, there's a lot that's going on with this stuff. And I just don't think that people really care too much about some poor kids of color not really getting education, because who's gonna fill up these menial jobs that we need that's coming up? So that's where I'm at.
The product component or aspect of it I left out, but you're 100% right. I think we're funding education at levels, at the highest levels that we've ever funded education, right? And the outcomes primarily for Black and brown youth, rural youth, Native youth, low income youth are abysmal, right? You're just like, what is it all for, right? And so there's that part of it. And then you were all kind of moving towards the solutions part of it, which we can definitely get into. But it's like there's different ways that I think about this. I think about what's happening right now. Let's say in Oakland Unified, because I still follow. I feel like Oakland is like a petri dish, right? It's like if something's going on in Oakland, it's probably going to spread to other areas first. Or I think the same thing is Chicago Public Schools, LA. But today was the first day back for Oakland Unified administrators, and you know what they did? They boycotted their first day back. Because of the the budget situation in Oakland, because the lack of leadership,
the budget situation that they created, that they
not the administrators. I don't think the administrators did. Yeah, no, this is not OEA. This is the administrators.
I got you.
Union, right? They boycotted the full day of professional development, right? And so you have this issue. We had Mike Hutchinson on this show They clearly have a significant budget issue, and they're ignoring it. They're kicking the can down the road. It's really troubling. And this, I mean, have you seen the numbers out of LA? We're talking about structural deficits in the 20 or 30 billion dollars. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane, right? So if you're a parent with children in the system, like, they're going to be feeling it in some way, shape, or form. And that leads to, the larger issues of flight from public school systems. And it makes it very, very easy for, call them the private school choice charlatans, to swoop in and say, like, we have a better option for you, right? Come to the private school system. And that's essentially what's happening across a number of different states right now. There was something else I was going to add right now, and I'm blanking out on it. I think even locally, I remember I attended when we started high school here 2 years ago, and we went to the orientation. We were, the principal was there at the high school, and we had somebody from the local from our district school board was there, and I overheard a conversation with him and the principal of my kid's school about, like, declining enrollment. It's like, what are we going to do about declining enrollment? And the board member looked at the principal and he says, well, nothing. We're not going to do anything about it. I'm like, what do you mean, dude? You have to do something, right? We have these big comprehensive high schools that were designed to serve anywhere between 1,500 to 2,500 kids, and they're starting to, the enrollment is starting to, like, really kind of push that lower threshold, and they had to lay off librarians and other staff, and it's gonna get pretty hectic here pretty soon. But the bigger issue is in areas where you have schools that serve as community hubs, right? Like, the school has been in the community for X number of years. Yes, they do things other than educate children. They serve as community hubs, community centers. Many of them do adult ed. Many of them provide like food-related services, medical services. When you close a school in a community, talking primarily about low-income communities, it could have a very like that could be the only, like, lifeline that people have to, like, government support, and then it's gone, right? And so I don't know. I wanted to put that out there and see if you all had any thoughts around, like, solutions, or, like, what do you how, like, do you just treat the numbers as they are, like, oh, sorry, you're under enrolled, you're closed, or do we have to take into account, like, the environment or the context where these particular schools are, right?
I mean, I say, respect the end user of your product. This is not the 90s and the 80s no more, where people are just going to their school that's in their neighborhood. Right. Like, they have options. And I remember, and David, you were around, I worked in a traditional school setting. These people act like you shot their dog when you said, hey, man, we got to compete. Like, they acted like you have to compete for these people. Like, they have options. And the bill just said, just because these traditional schools are failing doesn't mean that the private or the charter school is better. It's a crapshoot. It's absolutely a crapshoot, but I have an option of the crapshoot. I have places I can go. I don't have to be there, and people can actually move with their feet. Very different from when I was entering into high school from Westlake, and my school was assigned was tech, but my mom wanted me to go to Berkeley High, and she was going to risk her freedom to put me into Berkeley High. Like, this is what I'm saying, right? Like, those days should be gone. Like, yep. they should. And when you can do that in Lafayette Elementary, the elementary school I went to and Huey P. Newton went to, when it looks exactly the same as when I was a student there, or when you see pictures of the 60s and 70s at this damn school and it looks the same, then maybe you don't deserve these kids. And you got to act like it. You have to make this a place that people want to be, and not be offended that, like, I think it genuinely offends people that poor people that are in public traditional systems want quality. That's and right. Don't want to just accept was and they're like, how dare you? And I think that you got to check yourself. Like, these schools can still look nice. You can still get them nice furniture. You can get, anyway, I'm going a little deep off the deep end, but I just know the general public is not as aware of these things and experiences that the four of us have and seeing this stuff. So you got to make it clear for them. These schools look like jails. They treat kids like jails. You call in the cops on second graders at Lafayette Elementary School. What you think gonna happen? What you think gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's what I was thinking. Like, families are tired; they're over it. And if it's not that they're disenrolling and going to another charter school or a Montessori school or another private school, they're leaving the state that they're in because they're pissed off with those politics or however education is handled where they live. So I think it's only going to get worse. And I was looking up some of the numbers for New York City. I'm like, yo, all this time I thought New York City was still up at 1 million kids. It's at 880,000. Like they've lost that many kids. Within the past couple of years. I think that the downward trend started around
That's
COVID.
a lot.
It's a lot.
Jeez.
And I think, maybe in the early 90s, early 2000s, we could say, oh, these families don't know any better. We're their neighborhood school. They're going to deal with, whatever BS the schools put out there. But these are not the same families and parents that we're dealing with, even families that are of a lower socioeconomic status, or maybe, not degreed or whatever, still are privy to information about how to get the best education for their kid. And some of these people also are going to these private schools, getting scholarships, going to these very expensive private schools for $0.19. So I think this trend is going to continue happening. And in terms of, solutions, you asked, I don't know. I'm like, we got people in outer space, and I don't understand.
Exactly.
Every time we have a problem in the education landscape, I just don't understand why, right? Take a page out of a Fortune 500 company, right? Or a company that's on the Forbes 100 list. Like, these people look at business, they predict trends, they use AI, robots, magicians, Jesus, whatever they need to forecast what's gonna happen. They look at it and they say, all right, this is going to happen. We need to pull back on this, or we need to not invest that much in this, or we need to raise this number or lower this number or hire these people or get rid of this department, all based on data, numbers, trends, analysis. Why aren't we doing that with schools? We're acting so surprised when
I hate to be a dick. There's some really intelligent people in schools, Jubilee, but like, who the hell's coming to work for schools? No one wants to be a superintendent. If you know data and if you know technology, you're not working in schools. You're working for SpaceX because they're paying you through the nose. Like, I wonder what is happening, I think, to the HR of schools, meaning like teachers are bailing out. So when Fort Worth ISD, which is a huge independent school district in the state of Texas, got taken over by the state, 800 teachers and staff bailed. That was last year. This year, 1,000 more bailed. So I'm with you. Like, wow. I think the question is where and why. Well, let me rephrase that. How can we get our best and brightest back into the realm of education? It goes back to the conversations when I graduated from school, and everyone's like, well, I'm going to go work for Google, and I'm going to work for Sunkist or Sundisk or whatever the hell, Sunkiss, Sundisk. Who gives a shit? Like, I'm going to go work for this evil ass corporation with some.
Or if you in Georgia, you go to Coca-Cola. Like, you go where,
Yeah. And it's like everyone, and they're like, Omar, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to go into education and teach, poor Latinos in the state of Texas. And I was like, wow, like, why'd you go to Stanford for this? And like, that was a perfect moment of what people's opinions are of education. Why did you go to Stanford for this? And it's like, so damn, true, dude, like the difficulty. It's depressing. It is. It's radically depressing. But I'm with you, Jude, 1,000%. But I hate to say it, like, I think you're a deep outlier.
You know what? When I think about, and again, this is largely charter, so you can push back all you want, but I have seen CMOs go after people like the Omar Yanars of the world, okay, the Zuckermans of the world, the little college graduate that just got graduated from, MIT and understands science and math and trends, to work at a CMO, right? To help them build out their marketing plan, right? Their strategic plan. So all I'm saying is, like, people would come if you could do more than just have to be in a classroom. There's way more to education and causing the educational landscape to be successful than just being a classroom teacher. Right. And I think if we paid attention to those nuances and those layers, because all of them impact what happens in the classroom, right? It just doesn't look like, something that anybody else would be interested in, right? So now it's relegated to, well, you just got to be passionate about it. If you're going to go in the classroom, teach those kids, it's a calling, and it's just like, it doesn't have to be a calling, right? There are other skill sets that need to be utilized in our sector that just are not. And that is why we are always behind. We still have rat infested buildings. We still have teachers who can't
suit wearing.
I mean, there's no reason that we're behind in math, we're behind in science, we're behind in reading. It's because we're not utilizing all that we can in this sector. It's not because it doesn't exist. It's because we don't ask for it, appeal for it. And so we continue to be behind. And as the same thing with problem solving and actually trying to figure out, how do we make sure that our enrollment is increasing? How do we make sure that our system is appealing to the masses and pulling in people from all walks of life? No matter what you studied in school, we can use you here, right? It's supposed to be the gift that keeps on giving, but now it's just like a dried up crouton.
But it's saturated. It's so saturated, right? Like in Oakland, you are bleeding people. There's how many schools? 90? How many? Like, it's just there is traditional schools are not in a position where they can actually be picky and choosy to get the best talent, right? Like, if you want to do it, we got you. We'll find you, come through. There's a lot of red tape that I think is somewhat antiquated in the traditional public system. Steve Perry was telling me this story, and I'm going to butcher it, but you'll get the gist. And
Steve Perry, the lead singer of Journey?
No, Steve Perry, the lead of Capital Prep. But before he got there, there was I think she was a former WNBA player, and she came to this school and was so inspired and was like, her career was over, but she was like, I want to pour into these kids. Like, I'll coach, I'll do this or whatever. And then just the red tape of like she just want to come in and do gym. Like, she want to just coach. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not just picking this person up? Yeah. And then she walked right out the door and never looked at it again, right? Like, she or a private school or a charter school was able to pick her up. The point is like, if I, as a doctor, or if somebody from NASA wanted to go to their traditional public school in Texas, right, in Houston, and be like, you know what, I want to moonlight and I want to teach this section. There's just so many hoops that they got to go through, but they can go to a Catholic school, a private school, a charter school, a university, and just, and you can have that level of talent. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, nobody, if you want the best of the best that actually have that professional experience and they want to give back to their traditional local school, it's just so much of a headache that it's just like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I can go do this at a university, right? Like, if it's good enough for a university, but not good enough for a school where 3 out of 10 of the kids are reading on grade level, our priorities are jacked up somewhere. And it's out of whack. It has to be a rejiggering. So what you said, Jube and Omar and David, where you can't even get the creme de la creme. Like, what if I don't want to leave my career, but I want to give a semester or two to my local school as service?
Exactly.
I can't do it. I can't do it in a traditional school. And that's about the only way you're going to get certain levels of this top quality, top tier, like movies have been made off of this, right? The disgraced author who like had a run of bad books, but goes back home and is like the English teacher for like a few years. You can't have Good Will Hunting right now is what I'm saying. Well, you probably can because Good Will Hunting, Will Hunting went to a private school, so you actually can. But that's the point that I'm making, right? And like, beggars can't be choosers right now. It's antiquated. Catch up to the times.
Please.
Catch up. Like, this is a common sense solution of how do I get to actually have the best talent? What does signing bonuses look like? What can it look like to put a person on contract as opposed to regular teaching salary that already has a salary somewhere else, right? So be creative. But if we can't even be creative as the adults who's supposed to be running the system that makes our kids smart, how can you expect kids to come out smart?
Yeah.
I want to run some numbers by you, and again, I'm picking on Oakland because Oakland is kind of like
Oakland.
What I know really well, but also think about like LA USD, think about Sacramento, think about San Jose, think about San Diego, Orange. In 2000, Oakland Unified ran about 70 different independent school sites with an enrollment of 53,000 kids. Right. 10 years later, they ran even more programs. In 2010, they ran 73 programs with 38,000 enrollment. In 2020, they ran even more programs with more declining enrollment, 85 programs with 35,000 kids. And today they've kind of leveled it off a bit, 77 programs with 33,000 kids. So they've lost about 20,000 kids, or about 35% of their enrollment over the last since 2000, right? That's crazy. And Charles knows this too. So this is like a mentality thing. And we're all like, well, why do they have such a hard time like restructuring or right sizing? And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to jobs, right?
Yeah, dude.
And it's in states like California and other states with very, very strong collective bargaining laws. It's very difficult to run a school system because you basically have to deal with unions that have a lot of power, right? And one of the first ways that I got to know about this was when I was running a charter school in Oakland, and we had the opportunity to apply to operate in a district site. So it's called, in California, it's called Prop 39. That's kind of irrelevant, but you can apply to say like, hey, we want to run our high school in this neighborhood. This is how many kids we have. This is the focus of our program. Can the district offer up any available space? And oh my God, they got so incredibly creative about the definition of what's available and what's not, right? They're like, oh no, it might look like we have 25 rooms at the school, but that's the room where the goldfish lives in the tank. That's parent room. No, this is serious. That's parent room A. That's parent room B. This is parent room C. This is the room where it's just general like trauma room for anybody that's experiencing trauma. They can go in there, and they like pushed back on these ratios, right? So we couldn't have access to the space. Point being is like poor planning, because they were in this fight to preserve their space, right? And they weren't really in the business of trying to do better for kids. And now like we're in this moment where they haven't been planning for this cliff. They've been trying to like, would you say, like trying to put out fires instead of like figuring out how to like manage the land. And now that time has come. And so thinking about like solutions for like school systems broadly, like plan early, don't wait for the crisis to show up to your district, as many districts have. I think one area they can turn to is like thinking, but only to a particular limit, because reducing central, you do need a central office.
Absolutely.
So a lot of the focus is like, just gut the central office. I'm like, the central office is the central office. You actually need a central office, right? Otherwise you're just are you suggesting that we run every single school system like New Orleans, right? With no centralized system. You have to develop closure criteria, make sure that it's clear and transparent for everybody. Mm-hmm. You got to engage families early on. And you also have to think about the the impacts to, like, let's just be clear about this, Charles. Like if you're going to close, you know, a school in the Oakland Hills, you're going to get a lot more flack and feedback, but those kids will probably be okay, as opposed to closing a school in the heartlands in East Oakland, right? Those kids are going to struggle. So you have to have some kind of like factor in there to consider, you know, to have some kind of equity factor, if we can even use that word anymore. But I don't know. I feel for these districts that have not already, like, they're not taking this on, because the problem eventually is going to become unbearable, and they're going to face a cliff. And you never want to be under that kind of pressure when you have to make a decision so quickly, especially when it involves like closing schools. But I don't see any other way around the issue.
I'll take a beat. Go ahead. I'll hop in after Owen Jube goes. No, I'll take a beat. Go ahead.
Just real quick. I wonder if it's not that the whole thing needs to be like imploded and recreated, right? I just think that you're right about, I heard you when you were like, dude, like these schools have existed since the 60s and we're doing the exact same thing. These schools have existed since the 80s and we're doing the exact same thing. And it's just like what Jube and I have been talking about for, God, at this point, Jube, how long? Like years and years and years. It's like, so you came to this school and you sent your kids to the school, but you're expecting radically different results, except you're sending your kids to the exact same school where the exact same thing is going on. And none of the systems have changed. So we're not coaching. We're not reorganizing the systems within the school, the personnel within the school, focusing more on academic coaching, focusing on kind of prioritizing someone to do ops and handling that, so that the principal's not worrying about school lunch. They're worrying about like coaching their teachers. You know, Harvard wrote this huge report years ago that Dr. Benitez was actually a part of that brain thinking and structure around, which was like, hey, maybe we should have like more financial accounting at the school so they can do, you know, budgeting for themselves. And I'm like, that's exactly what we've been doing since the very beginning. Meaning like the
what a novel concept.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like this restructuring of these systems absolutely need to happen. But David and Doc, you're absolutely right. Like, it pisses me off that instead of looking out for the kids, what everyone, and especially these unions and especially like within the collective bargainings, everyone's looking out for the job. And look, I get it, man. These are people's jobs. These are people's livelihoods. They're their families. But when you start really rethinking and restructuring the prioritization of jobs, like, okay, maybe we don't need this many people in this school, this many teachers. Like, how many of those can you pull out and like, hey, you're good at technology, like do the data crunching. You're good at finance, like you should be doing more financial work than administrative work, and reconfiguring the system. But once again, politics just gets in the way. And the politics is really what's pissing me off, because ultimately, like, this is where governors and state legislatures aren't doing shit, because they're getting elected by the teachers, and the teachers are the ones demanding this shit. And oftentimes, like, I hate to say it, like, because I'm on the side of the teachers, but they're causing a lot of problems too. It is really a conundrum here. And you know, honestly, if someone's like, Omar, go be the superintendent of this major school district, it's like, I'd have to really think about where I'd start.
Right.
Have to think about really where I'd start in terms of reconfiguring these systems to be contemporary versus this offshoot of what we've seen since the 1960s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah. You got some, Jude? Go ahead, Jude. Yeah. Y'all got me taking notes. I'm ready. I'm in it.
I'm just thinking we gonna keep seeing these numbers decline. I have zero hope that we're going to have an upward trend in the next 10 years. And again, I think that parents are going to utilize their agency, and they're going to keep taking their kids to other places. Now, I was just looking up the trends on homeschooling. We had somebody in the chat who was a homeschooler. That's growing. right? They're hitting record
And
highs.
black people leading.
Black, yeah, people that identify as non-white, right? And so I think that trend is going to continue because in order to I'm gonna keep my kids in public school because that's what I can afford, and I'm blessed to be an educator who knows better and to know how to advocate and what questions to ask, right? And one of my goals is to help parents with that as well, like while I'm here, right? Help them to be in it to win it too. Howsoever, one of the biggest lies is that the public school can do it better, right? We told all the family, bring us your tired, your weary, your poor, just bring them to the schoolhouse. We got you. And as a country, we're behind in pretty much everything except for greed and dirty politics. And so I really think this is going to continue, and we're going to see homeschool, more private school enrollment, more Montessori, more people, trying to get these vouchers in states that have them, micro schooling. We haven't even seen. We saw the school that David thinks is a scam. I forget the school, the micro school, the AI.
Alphaville, Alpha Academy. Yeah,
But
that's the one David and I basically uncovered as another Pinchy Ponzi scheme like crypto.
We exposed them. Yeah, we exposed them.
There will be more, right? Asynchronous learning, online learning. Sydney and Zachary School has a whole online program run by a third party. You ain't got to go to school for 7th through 12th grade. You sign up and you do all your entire, mostly your middle school and all your high school online. You don't have to step foot in a building at all. And we're going to see more of those things pop up, and we're going to see more parents like, better for me, more convenient for me, and maybe it'll give my kid a fighting chance, because showing up to this building every day, dealing with all the bureaucracy, dealing with teachers who some care, some don't, dealing with a curriculum that ain't nothing, dealing with people that don't know how to teach to the standards or teach to mastering objectives, dealing with implicit and explicit biases against my child, it just ain't worth it. So I'm going to use my agency and walk right out.
Got you. I love that, man. I agree with all of that. And I just sent you guys, I'm sending it now. Just the homeschool numbers and the reasons and rationales is Black and brown. And then the third group is special needs kids. And they talk about the customization. They talk about the quality of education that they saw. Basically, parents went through COVID and they didn't know what y'all was doing in these classrooms. And they heard their kids' class and was like, what the is this? I can do this. What is happening? And, and I think that was a big part. There's a few other solutions, though. I think Vocation 2.0, I think. So Paducah, Kentucky, the place where I used to live, I went back and visited. I was, going to do some stuff there. Still want to really badly. But it's not really as much traditional charter school beef there. It's city schools and county schools there. So if you don't know a lot about Kentucky, Kentucky has the most counties in the country, right? Like, so there's as much county pride as there is like city pride, but they were in a competition. Like they were competing for students. So they built in their main administrative building is also tied to the high school. And what they saw was, we need welders. We need welding. There's jobs here. There's like horses here. There's like manual labor we need done. So they built together the local, the city, the county, and the high school, and the city built a state-of-the-art welding facility, training facility inside of that shared campus. So this is where the superintendent's office is. This is where the lead high school is. And oh, by the way, there's only 1 or 2 high schools in this place.
Wow.
And what happens is they built this world-class program that goes to competitions and does this stuff. So you can be a student and enroll there. And then there's a job for you for like $40,000 to $50,000 out of high school. I know our California, New York brains are like, what is that gonna? No, in Kentucky, $50,000 at 18 years old.
Yeah,
that's a great start with an actual skill. So it got so good that they did a partnership with the local jail and prison, to where it's like they figured it out. But like now, these second step people that also had lost so much time, or maybe the system lost them, they're able to take these, these special classes and get the certification. You gotta be creative in what does your town need? What does your city need? Like these schools should be solving a lot of those problems. And, and they say, we're going to get the basics right. We're not trying to be Harvard. We're not trying to be Stanford, but you're going to know how to read. You're going to know how to do basic math. And here you can go and work. If you want to go to college, there's a ton of colleges here. But if you don't, if you want to be here and do the horse thing and do the labor thing and start a family, because that's the other thing, right? We forget that small towns, especially Southern and Midwest towns, they like to get married. They want to start families at 21 and 22. And what do you need to start a family? You need a good job. And that's one. I think for the city slickers, I ain't leave us out California and Texas and New York, right? Like if you're a unified school district, then why don't you act like one? Meaning, if there are a network of high schools that's in the same system, why doesn't high school 1 specialize in this thing? And high school 2 specializes in this thing. And guess what? Maybe I can be enrolled in high school 3, but I can still go to high school 1 or high school 2 and get what I need. You know who does that now? The California State University system, the University of California system, the CUNY system, college and universities in New York, right? You have to move forward with the times. These school systems still look as antiquated as they look like 1960s.
Still.
Go watch Cooley High. And then go, and I dare you to go into one of these black high schools now, and you be like, damn, why does shit look like it did in Cooley High?
But yes.
He's moving to Kentucky at 75.
I'm just saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you have to, but Florida, Houston is good at this, right? Like you think about Houston, what does Houston have? They got fucking NASA, man. Like, what does Hershey, Pennsylvania have? They got Hershey's, yo. Like Detroit, even with Detroit losing a lot of its manufacturing, you know what they should have been building? We're going to be the next big thinkers in manufacturing automobiles. We're going to beat Tesla. We're going to beat China. We're going to beat these things. Like you get what I'm saying? So I just feel like these opportunities are here, but there's no political will. And I think what David talked about, you just need a villain. You need a villain that is okay and going to come in and say, you know what? Blame it on me. I'm shutting it down. I'm doing the right sizing. You can hate me. It's fine. But this is what I'm going to build as I do that. Right. And I just think there has to be some kind of political will. And I'll end this long soliloquy because, again, I know the people at home don't know this stuff. In most of these cities that we're talking about, people, the number 1, 2, or 3 job provider tends to be the school district. So now It's not just about can your kids read. You think it's about can your kids read and do math. But now if you're the superintendent, if Jubilee is now the superintendent of Oakland, now it's like, Jubilee, you're in charge of 40,000 jobs and contracts. And who gets this? Like there's a different type of political pressure when the business guild calls you in and is like, hey man, we can't really close all these schools because that's going to be X amount of jobs. So again, I just want to make it plain for our audience that doesn't work in schools and ask questions if you need to, but there's so much more than just reading, writing, arithmetic that's going on into this problem.
Yeah.
So I wonder if
very long.
Government I wonder if government is the problem. We were talking earlier about how do you recruit the best, brightest, most innovative thinkers to come into public education, also like public administration, and to bring like these ideas forward, right? New ideas. Charles, you talked about it earlier, like innovative ideas, ways to retain enrollment through different types of program offerings, right? Like be creative. Doesn't all have to happen in the classroom. But it feels like, we've seen innovators come in, or sometimes they call them disruptors, right? And what do these big systems tend to do with disruptors? They tend to
squash them.
Gotta go.
Yeah, exactly.
Silence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think that's probably the bigger the bigger issue here that we're facing with this clear problem that we know is happening. Again, Oakland Unified, and I'll move into my closing thoughts, and then you all can jump in. Oakland Unified is looking at starting this year with $36 million general fund deficit. LA Unified, they're looking at $1.3 billion deficit for this year. Houston, talking about previously reported $520 million deficit. Dallas ISD, $104 million shortfall. Philadelphia, $300 million structural deficit. Chicago Public Schools coming in at $700 million opening budget deficit. So,
you know what you should look up while you're doing it? Hey, David, I know we're coming up on time, but can you also look up the major contract both Chicago and Oakland both signed right before this happened?
I mean, that's I mean, I think that is the crux of the issue, right?
We got to make that connection for the people, though, you know?
Yeah, like some of these like ridiculous like collective bargaining agreements that actually strip away the ability for administrators to actually like do professional development or hold teachers accountable, yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Can't train them, can't fire them, can't hold them accountable, can't go into their classrooms before a certain number of days. David, can you imagine being a principal now and somebody telling you can't go observe your brand new teacher in the first few weeks? Can you, Omar? You run a school.
That's so wild, dude. That's crazy. Yeah, no.
I'm sorry. I love this topic.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, those things are connected. Those things are connected for sure. Maybe that's where we got to. So, anyways, I'll Omar's like, you're out of here. All right. I'll turn it over to you all for closing thoughts on this ever so uplifting topic.
Man, I'll go and get out the way because this is a great episode. This is where I wish we did have a 2-hour show because there's so much education to give. Because I love our education systems. I want to see more teachers. But there's just the business of it is just so jacked and they know it's messed up, and that's the problem. But they play on your sensibilities because you want to support teachers. You want to support the teachers union. When the teachers union says they're lying, they got the money to do this stuff. And you're looking at data and you're being like, no, they don't. We got an infusion from a billionaire, a one-time infusion. That does not fix a structural deficit. And these people are being flipping with your money. I think this was great, and I love what everybody had to say. I thought we all brought something different, and I'll just close on something that's somewhat connected, but a little different just because it's happening right now in real time. Howard University, I'm blackity black. Shame on you, man. Shame on you, man. Dropping 500 kids right before school starts because you made a mistake with their funding and their paperwork, and they got to outdo bills. And now you just got these kids whose dreams it was. If you're not black, or maybe you are not black and you know this, but the dream of going to a Howard University, not just any HBCU, but Howard, is hallowed ground. And this level of mismanagement from this to not being able to keep Felicia Rashad, who wanted to come there and give and give back, to having mold and rat infestations and all this stuff, man, with these kids, and then getting mad at other black kids that are not choosing HBCUs. Shame on you. And we got to have a deeper talk about it because I love that university and what it stands for. I can love something and I can criticize it, but this is a failure of leadership. And it's a microcosm of a larger thing happening in this country. We can talk about Trump and how crazy and terrible he is to black people and brown and minorities and stuff like that. But I'm not letting people off the hook that happen to be my color that are doing this to people that look like them. So shame on you. And I'm gonna probably cover it on my own because I got to go in on it.
I think mine is good.
Let's keep hope alive. I mean,
Keep hope alive.
All right, Jesse.
Tired. It's so discouraging. I really do hope that the people in the landscape making the decisions, the superintendents, the politicians, the boards, just pay attention to the trends and be responsive. Like it's giving us information. There's no reason why we are constantly running, constantly behind the 8 ball. And also, I was reflecting on the days when I was with the DOE in New York City. Bloomberg, he was the mayor for a portion of it, and people hated Bloomberg, and people have their criticisms of him. But one thing he did was highlight, right, the need for systems, the need for framework, the need for systems for accountability, right, for everybody, in the system. The need to figure out, well, how exactly are we spending this money, and how is this money giving us a return on investment? And so you can say what you want about people like him or people like him or what have you, but I think every system needs that. And until we get better at who we are bringing in, who we're collaborating with, Bill said these third-party consultants, that's like a whole nother story, but the information is out there, the wisdom is out there, the know-how is out there, people that can come in to help us strengthen our systems are out there. But I think we've got to be willing to take the feedback and to utilize it and to understand that you don't have to be an educator to educate us on how to strengthen these systems for kids, for families, and to ensure that we have people that have jobs, right? So those are my final thoughts.
And I think I'm coming at it from the chicken or the egg perspective, and I wonder what our audience has to say about it, which is I'm stuck. So the system needs a complete and utter reevaluation. Jobs need to shift, systems need to shift. How we're doing education needs to shift. And I think if we don't shift, it just keeps giving credence to explicitly conservative politicians to be like, let's just privatize this and be done with it.
Exactly.
And I don't think that that's a very good idea, nor does it bode well for Democrats who are sitting on their asses, don't have a plan, acquiesce to the teacher unions, don't legislate worth a piss anymore. I mean, like, I read up about all this like proposed idea, but I'm like, where's the actual legislation? How many laws have actually passed in a previous legislative term? It's silly. And I'm talking both from a national standpoint and from a state standpoint. And I mean, like, how can Texas so quickly be like, today's National Margarita Day, but like, be like, hey, we got billions of dollars in the coffer, but fuck y'all. I'm at a loss today because my head is spinning just in terms of where does one actually begin to solve this problem? Is it the unions? Is it the legislatures? Is it the job market that exists because, you know, the town is beholden to the school district? Is it leadership? Is it the lack of initiative of recruiting brilliant people to reevaluate this system? I don't know. And maybe our audience has got some better ideas. Also, just big shout out to Bill for singing Journey with me on this here episode.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. I think that takes us to the end in perfect South Star Classroom fashion. We are ending with more questions than we started with.
Signs of a great episode.
Yeah. All right. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Good to see people in the chat. Very helpful. And we will see you all next week. Same time, same place.
Peace.
Take care, everybody.
Peace. Take care of each other.